Welcome to Slow News Day Live. My name is Steve Boykin, and I am here in beautiful Boulder Creek, California, where the flannel shirt is our state flag, the pit bull is our state bird, and cannabis is our state flower. I am joined this afternoon by Andrew Zigmund, who is the co-founder of Actions for Assange. Will be carrying on the Unity for J vigils with the approval and blessing of Julian's mom, and recently found out what it's like to have an interaction with the police for hanging up some fucking flyers. So please welcome to the show, Andrew. How you doing, man?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, for sure. You blew my mind the other day when I saw that you had posted that you had got fined in a court date for hanging those, because I was sharing the shit out of the hanging the signs and trying to get people familiar with you and what you had going on, and then you got to talk to the cops over it. So what was that all about?
Yeah, so myself and Taylor, we founded what we call an Action for Assange. Right now, it's just us two trying to get other people inspired to do the same, any kind of real-world action, whether it's hanging posters, passing out flyers, stuff like that. But we were actually going down the street in Oberlin, and if you know anything about Oberlin, Ohio, it's like a super progressive college town. Like, it's one of the few sanctuary cities in northern Ohio. Back in the day, it was like the central hub for the Underground Railroad up through like into Canada, because we're right on the Great Lakes. Mm-hmm. So it's one of those towns that just always has had this rich history of like almost revolutionary action. Like the joke that they make at like the city council meetings and stuff like that is, if they can't get it done in Oberlin, it can't get done anywhere.
Okay.
So, and I actually wasn't aware that putting posters on street signs was illegal in Oberlin, because it's a city by city basis apparently. So me and Taylor were going down literally just Main Street, putting up signs that read "Free Julian Assange," "No More Torture," "Chelsea Manning's a POW," things like that. And an officer just shouts at us, "Hey, you can't put that up there, stop it." And then I just look at her, staple the poster the last couple times on the sheet, and she flicks her blinkers on, pulls us out, pulls into the parking lot behind us, and then I proceed to tell her, like, I'm not advertising, this is political speech on public property, there's easements for the utility poles, you can't tell me not to do this, it's my right. And she proceeded to put me in the back of the car, empty my pockets. Nothing that I haven't been through and isn't unusual for police interaction, but just the fact that it was over hanging no torture signs, free Julian, free speech, free press. So I got a court date issued for July 5th, which is Friday, which I actually think is kind of perfect, because today I'm going there for a city council meeting at 7. And then I have 3 days, 2 of which are important, which is Julian's birthday and the 4th of July.
Yeah.
So they basically just told an activist, hey, you can't do anything. It's illegal to freely speak in this town. So the literal only reaction to that is to keep doing it and just keep getting hit with minor misdemeanors until I can get it overturned in their court and have it say, okay, this isn't advertising, it's political speech.
What are you supposed to be advertising? Like, I don't even understand how it's a fucking charge.
I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Oh, okay. I don't understand what you. Whoa, weird. I don't understand why you got an advertising charge. Like, what about hanging fucking free Assange or free Chelsea Manning are you advertising?
They called it poster pollution. That they didn't want a bunch of extra signs on telephone poles, so it was made illegal. And they said that I was advertising for the freedom of Julian Assange and our free speech.
Yeah, that would be fun to go to court over, I think.
Yeah. Oh, it's going to be great. I've appeared in front of this judge like 3 or 4 times in my life already. And the last time I was there, because this is one of those guys that like has to make you think he's important, like tells big, long stories about like how the judicial process works and how laws are written and all this stuff. And he goes on for about 45 minutes in the beginning of court. And the last time I was there, I did all the things, pled no contest to my traffic charges and such. But I reminded him that he left out the portion of the legal process that is designed to criminalize poverty through lobbyist contributions and our for-profit prison systems. So this is going to be a pretty fun judge to go in front of again, trying to fight for free speech issues.
I have a lot of empathy for Julian Assange being locked up on his birthday. That's happened to me. I've been locked up over Christmas and New Year's before for some fucking absolutely trumped up charges. I did 3 months in fucking Clark County, Georgia, Athens, Georgia.
That's crazy.
Just waiting to go to court because I was arrested like during widespread panic shows. It was pouring rain. I was standing underneath an awning with a couple other people. We had backpacks on, and cops on bikes swarmed us, threw us against the wall, started running our shit. And when I got arrested with 6 hits of ecstasy in my pocket that had not been in there until that cop had fucking thrown me up against the wall and started running my shit.
Dude, that's some sneaky ecstasy, bro.
It really is. And at no other time in my life has ecstasy ever just materialized in my pocket, regardless of whether or not I wanted that to be the case.
Dude, that's almost as strange as planes dematerializing on impact into towers. Like, that's...
It really is. It really is. That cop, there was a cop, I can't remember what state it was out of, but he just got caught on his own body camera, by his own body cam, planting drugs with people.
That's crazy. That's the most insane thing.
It's not the first time that a cop has been caught by their own body camera planting drugs on people they've pulled over.
Yeah.
Or while chasing, pursuing, or whatever. It furthers both the reality of the police state and the lengths that the police state will go to subjugate regular working people when real shit is taking place, like in your case and Julian Assange's case, with not just his life and freedom at stake, but press freedom in general on the line while we're at it, over exposing crimes of empire.
Right. Like the biggest thing for me about the Julian Assange case isn't even what I would have to deal with personally, like as far as losing my rights, because I know as a human, I have the ability to survive in like a dystopian winner-take-all world, but I don't want my kids to grow up in something like that. Like, we have a very core essence for what our country is going to be, regardless of any other ideology, and the ability to freely share information is at the heart of that. And so to me, that's the biggest fight, is securing that right, not even just for us in this time, but for the next 50 years, for when they try to do this again, they don't have that much more precedent that they can keep building off of.
Well, and that's the thing. And I heard, I'm kind of new to listening to Kim Iverson, and I'm sure that, I'm behind the curve on that.
She's actually a fairly new creator. She only started back in January.
Well, shit, man. Then whatever she's doing is working way the fuck better than whatever I'm doing. I'm not 100% sure what to think about her, because she was talking, like, she was trying to lay out the case for why it's ridiculous that people criticize Tulsi over saying, I'm a hawk on terror, I'm a dub on regime change wars.
Yeah.
And she laid out this case that the wars that we've been in since the global war on terror started have ostensibly all been for oil, which is, accurate enough. But she went on to say that only people who believe the narrative about why we're in these places would assume that because all those wars are regime change wars, even though they've been labeled as we're going after the terrorists, it's the fault of the person for not understanding that that they're wars based on oil, not because somebody attacked us or because we have a problem with terrorists. That is the exact reason that Tulsi to this day cites for joining the army.
Yeah.
Or National Guard. Like, I bought the propaganda, and throughout the whole thing, like, Kim Iverson, as progressive as she's trying to be, and is like, no, look, here's the real story behind all this. She spouts establishment talking point after establishment talking point based on why we got to where we are over the last 20 years, and the Bush fucking narrative on what happened during 9/11, and even that, like, Saudi Arabia produces most of the oil that we're then selling. And these are all inaccurate statements. Saudi Arabia gets to set the price per barrel through an agreement. And they set the price per barrel in US dollars because we have a partnership. But they do not themselves produce any more than like 20% of the world's oil. And it weirds me out that someone like her has gained so much traction so quickly and is like, just no one is there critically going, hey, wait a minute, like, not everything you're saying is really real.
Yeah, like, I like Kim Iverson. I follow her. I donate to her on Patreon, like, just for clarity, like, transparency's sake. But I don't agree with everything she says. But I think at the end of the day, she's just a person. Like, she's not associated with any other group. She's an independent creator. I know, I don't want to use names, but just other people who know her and can speak for her. And I think it's just more of her perspective on it, where does do research behind it, but I think a lot of it is just kind of how she thinks and feels. Like with the war on terror, our global war on terror is literally just a global war for power and to remove rights. But there is an argument to be made that is, we built Al-Qaeda, we built al-Nusra, we built ISIS. So there is an issue that is created, but I don't know if it's necessarily up to us to handle. And I don't want to say that that's what she was trying to say, but me, that's kind of just how I interpreted it, is like, we still have to fight these demons, essentially. I don't want to demonize them, so that's a completely wrong word. We still have to stop these groups that we built up through our intelligence agencies to give us a reason to go to war, but that doesn't mean that they don't still exist. I just don't think we need to be the police of the world. Like, for example, in Syria, let Syria handle Syria's problems. Like, I think that's the most basic concept for it, where we don't need to be running around the globe doing all this crazy stuff, but at the same time, we literally built these terrorist organizations. Like, we wouldn't have been attacked on 9/11, for whatever perspective you think of it as, if our government hadn't funded the creation of these groups to begin with. Where in the 70s, if we didn't sign our US dollar over to the Saudi Arabians to control the oil price, then we wouldn't have had a reason to continue going into the Middle East. So there's all these weird little nuances. But I think overall, Kim was just reporting what she thought more than as much fact as she could find. But she does do pretty well researched pieces of that too.
Yeah, like I said, I'm brand new to I'm brand new to her content. I know that some of the people that I enjoy watching and that I personally, have met and get along with and like, enjoy what she's doing. It like, this late in the game, we're getting close to 20 years removed from 9/11 now. There's supposed to be a little bit more, I think, honest reflection, if not outright refusal to believe the narrative that came out of George H.W. Bush's White House regarding it. Like, whatever you think about who does the fake news, like, George H.W. Bush is, as a person, fucking fake news. Like, I don't understand how you could uncritically rattle that off, at this point, and be taken be taken seriously, unless what you're trying to do is for further muddy the waters in terms of what it means to tell the truth in 2019, or be a progressive, or be a fucking leftist, whatever that is.
And I think like, again, I think it was just her personal point of view, because I did watch that video and there was a lot that it was kind of cringeworthy, but it seemed more like a defense of Tulsi than a rationalization of fact. Like, if that makes sense.
I'll agree with that. It was definitely like the premise of the video was to defend Tulsi Gabbard, and she did.
She did a good job.
Kind of an all right job of that, but she never really got around to the fact that, like, I honestly don't know a lot of people who think that America goes to war for any other reason than the acquisition of natural resources. Like, we saw this play out with Iran just recently. Nobody bought that narrative. Nobody bought that Iran was behind exploding those tankers, no matter how hard the fucking media tried to push it.
I think the biggest thing, though, is that we just shouldn't try to defend progressive politicians. Like, they need to defend themselves with what we would say against them if they said that. Like, with Tulsi's war on terror thing, like, we understand what that means. So we have the ability to criticize that. So I don't think we should really, and we as in like Kim Iverson and everybody involved, like with people who support Tulsi's campaign, because it's something that we saw with AOC, where people just uncritically supported her. She would do things and there was always a reason, where they would be like, oh, well, she has these 18 Democrats, but we're all going to vote for Pelosi anyways. And then it was, well, we really don't want PAYGO, but she said we can get our policies through, and then never brought them to the floor. To where we allow politicians to capture us based on our desperate need to hear representation for our ideologies, that someone can say, hey, Green New Deal, and then literally just do everything against it, but build a big Twitter following because she can say nice words, but at the end of the day, acts like a corporate Democrat. Like, they're like her AOC, and this is just my like personal grievance against her. She was in Los Angeles in Kenneth Mejia's district while he was running for office against only a corporate Democrat at a rally for the DSA, which were the people supporting his campaign. They didn't bring him on stage to speak. He was the only person live streaming the event for her through his Twitter page. And then at the end of it, she said, go help this Kenny Ill dude in Hawaii, or whatever his name was. When they had a progressive on the field right there in the same room running to be part of her coalition. And she says, well, take all this local energy for change and try to put it in Hawaii, because that's a good Democrat and this person's a green and a corporate Democrat. So they're equal. And so to me, and even as far as like her support of Tim Canova, like, you want to be a progressive, that's step one. Like, you get Tim Canova's blessing to be in politics. Like, it doesn't matter if you have to drive to Florida to meet the guy. Like, to me, he's the leader of the progressive movement, not Bernie Sanders.
You know what, man? I certainly agree with you 100% on that, and I'm really glad that you brought up AOC, because she has successfully taken the template on how to be a fake progressive that Elizabeth Warren made viable, like a tangible thing, and she has elevated it. Like, you can be a quote unquote progressive based solely on your sound bites, your social media game, and fucking late night TV show appearances.
Right.
And that's all it really takes. Like, you're allowed to put forth legislation that sounds good that will never pass in, or let alone get out of committee in a Republican-held administration, in a Republican-held Congress. You're even allowed to put forth like radically sounding legislation that's been corporate sanitized and been watered back and rendered based toothless, and you're allowed to pass that or have those organizations come to be, like during Democratic administrations. But ultimately, in the end of the day, what you're doing is solidifying the neoliberal center. You are, and by center I mean like their center of power, not that they are in the center of the political spectrum.
I remember Jimmy Dore did a report on it. AOC had 18 other House Democrats, literally the number needed to prevent Nancy Pelosi from being House Speaker and to prevent any corporatist from being House Speaker without Republican support. Trump goes on TV and says, oh, I could get some Republicans for Nancy. The next day, those 18 Democrats switch positions and say, oh no, we'll support her. Those 18 House Democrats could have shut down the House until we ended the war in Iraq and Afghanistan. That could have been what we as progressives put forward for our first appearance into the national political stage in an actual representative way. And it turned into, well, we're just going to support Pelosi because everyone else is further right, where the answer is shut down the system.
Well, yeah, and I mean, that's something that I advocate pretty much every time that I go and do a show. AOC and the Justice Democrats, and this is shit I've said before, but it bears repeating, they're not there to transform the party from the inside. That's the marketing. They're there to be the heir apparents to fucking Nancy Pelosi's power, throne, whatever you want to call it.
They're rebranding war criminals. Nancy Pelosi literally got read in on torture in 2003 and is still in government because if anyone stands up for those people being tortured, she immediately gets implicated, which I think is what makes Julian's fight such a silver bullet against the establishment, is everything else surrounding what is happening is pivotal in Julian's fight. The same people responsible for the creation of ICE, the same people responsible for the false flag in 9/11, the same people responsible for all of our fake wars, all of that literally ties directly back into the same people Julian's fighting. And that's why I want to try so hard to unite different activist fronts and not to take their energy away. But when someone talks about deportations and ICE raids and things like that, they also need to bring up the fact that, hey, we can't spread this information without the First Amendment. We have to have the ability to share this information to fight the war criminals that this person who's being prosecuted is also fighting. So Julian's struggle unites intersectionally into every other activist struggle, but I'm just finding a hard way of reaching other people to explain that in a way that makes sense to them. Where you talk about it and people are either like, it's old news, or, well, I have all these other fights going on. And then I'm trying to tell them, I don't want to take away from you, but I want to add to what you're doing. I want to further increase your ability to spread this information by protecting the fact that it's going to go away if this court trial goes through. That only state-sponsored news will be what's legally allowed globally, even, because of the power that it gives.
And I think that's where people get fucking just overwhelmed or overtired. And I can't stress the importance enough of action for Assange, of actually physically going out and doing something tangible in the real world to remind people that Julian Assange exists. He's being fucking illegally held in Britain's Guantanamo Bay for nothing now that the fucking fake rape charges have been dropped again. But yeah, but 50 months on skipping bail on a charge that doesn't even exist anymore is officially why he's in there. We're trying to make the extradition case happen. And this is something that people need to be aware of. You're right, as they go into whatever else they're doing. I can't have this thing. I can't promote this thing. I don't have an outlet to talk about this thing if we're allowed to fucking or if they're allowed to get away with silencing Julian Assange, with eroding what's left of the veneer of the fucking First Amendment, without taking massive, complete, totalitarian control of communication in general. And that does directly affect activists and organizers.
I think the biggest way to fight it, and it's the way you fight everything, and I hate the answer because it's so frustrating to me as someone that's got shot down so many times, but local organizing really is the solution to this, because there's never been a grassroots movement for Julian. Like, Candles for Assange is doing absolutely incredible work. It's like 2 people out of New Zealand that have got 53 events now that I registered mine across the world for vigils on the 3rd of July. Because the 3rd is Julian's birthday. And for me, I was trying to find a way where I can't get a bunch of people to a place. Like, I don't have the ability to have 500 people show up to listen to me speak. But I do have the ability to go to where 500 people are. So my city, my little small town, Ohio, is having a fireworks festival on the 3rd, which is Julian's birthday. So I live maybe a mile from where it's at, and I'm going to print probably 200 posters, put a poster on every pole all the way around the entrances to this place. And then I'm literally buying a cake today that I'm going to take there that says, "Happy birthday, Julian, the 4th of July," or the 4th of July is for free speech.
Okay, that's fucking bad.
Yeah, and just pass out pieces of cake to people as they come to the city's 4th of July celebration and say, "Hey, let's fight for our right of free speech. Like, this is what the 4th of July is. Like, let's make this bringing these rights back, not just a celebration for what someone did 200 years ago that we've completely given up on."
Well, and at least in Santa Cruz County, the 4th of July is flyered and advertised as the farce of July. Like, there's a regular event around Moe's Alley, music venue with reggae bands to come celebrate the farce.
So the best, just to comment on like that wording, and this is kind of something like going off in a different direction a little bit.
We're allowed to do that here.
Yeah, there was a speech that I listened to of a guy from the 80s talking about how to get like anarchism to the United States, because it's what we're actually built on with old school libertarianism. And it's about speaking the language of America with like anarcho-socialist, anarcho-communist, and anarcho-capitalist means, to where it's saying we can build all of these things that we want. We can have single-payer healthcare. We can have a functioning police system, but we don't have to do it through government. Where that doesn't have to be the answer. Like, why do you need a guy with a gun to tell you you're going too fast down the road? That's just an unacceptable response to speeding. So we have the ability as people to individually organize together and say, well, we want to start a national workers union. Everyone's in it by default. Whoever wants to pay in can pay in. Let's cover everyone's healthcare. To where we don't even have to have it be this debate of private insurance or nationalized insurance. It can be unionized or like given to the people in a system outside of government to be controlled. And it's something that's actually a really powerful model over in Sweden, to where I think it was Home Depot tried to start making their big retail shops over there. And they didn't want to bring in the union. They say, we haven't unionized in any country. We're not doing it. And the people there that weren't unionized inside of Home Depot were members of the National Labor Union. So they said, you don't want to do this. You just hired all these new employees. Day one, we're striking until you let the union in. And that's a way of national power. So that's one of those things that I want to try to inspire in people, is the answer is what is directly around you, because no one else can solve those problems except for the people nearest to you. Where if you and the people in your community are food insecure, find a way to grow that food. Team up with Food Not Bombs. Make these little connections. But like with free speech, and just to pivot back to Julian, getting people to their local 4th of July events, passing out flyers, getting cake, or just whatever to make that impression locally is going to make a big difference. Because I plan on talking with the Candles for Assange team about having this be at least like a monthly thing, where we have 53 cities that are doing it already. Next week, maybe it'll be 54. 3 weeks from now, maybe it'll be 60. So it's not giving up on the things that we see are working, but then also pivoting out of the things that aren't. Like, I haven't gotten too many other people to start hanging up posters for Julian, but it's something that I now kind of feel like I found a way to make a difference for fighting for free speech on a local level while promoting his idea at the same time. So I'm going to specifically find cities that have bans on public advertising and go and hang the posters for Julian there to make them come and find me, to go to court to get those things overturned, to say, hey, this is a victory for Julian and for us because we can keep speaking.
Yeah, and when you really get down to the crux of it, like what they're calling advertising, what they're calling, what was it, pollutive postering or poster pollution or something like that?
Yeah.
You would then have to make them defend in court that it is in the interest of the city government to censor speech about the impending death of free speech. That would be interesting as fuck, man.
Right.
Like,
and I actually made that argument to the police officer. I told her that, like, you realize that you're citing me for free speech. Like, you're citing me for using my free speech while I'm using that free speech to defend someone else's speech. And she was like, I don't understand what you're saying to me. And I'm like, well, you're part of the same system that's prosecuting him that's now prosecuting me for defending. Like, it's a minor misdemeanor. There's no jail time attached. It's $100 fine plus court costs at most. But the goal is to go into it and have it become like a win. So we can set the precedent in the city of Oberlin that political speech is welcome on the streets and in public property. Because that's something that the city has lost completely, where you can't go and publicly post, hey, this is what's going on in the world, without someone literally pulling you over and calling over 3 other cars.
yeah. Is that how many cop cars showed up eventually for you?
Yeah, there was 3 of them. And the best part,
you did all right though, man. You did all right.
Yeah. So, like, I've been in the back of a car enough that, like, it's not intimidating if I know what's going on. Like, if it's some dumb shit and I'm like, this ain't real, like, I'll be in a little bit of a different situation. But with that, like, I know that I'm completely in the right. Like, I'm involved in the Green Party. I understand how the political speech works versus advertising. So it's honestly probably a hiccup on the part of the officers just because I was an asshole. But at the same time, that then allows me to push this issue, to get news coverage made, to have these things happen on a local level of standing up to defend free speech. Because at the end of the day, it's going to take people. Like, we can retweet and like and share as much as we want, but that doesn't take back government.
Yeah, this is something that I try to drive home on most shows, is that the only way that we can really accomplish anything is by coming together as people and fucking surrounding whatever halls of power are necessary until we get our fucking way. Like, there's no, you can't take good people, let alone the type of scum or sociopath that normally runs for office, and put them in a system that is designed by fucking sociopaths to be broken on purpose to serve only a small number of people, and expect them to do anything other than fucking be sociopathic actors passing bad legislation. Yeah. It's just, it doesn't fucking register why. It does. I'm going to contradict myself here real quick. The only way this works is to keep us as distracted and divided as possible.
Right.
The only way that works is to have fucking fake progressives who run off of a template, who fucking appear to be doing the right things when the cameras are rolling, and then as soon as the cameras aren't rolling, boom, there's a fucking distraction.
Right. Like another great justice them to call out is Abdul Saeed, ran for governor up in Michigan.
Oh yeah.
That primary was completely rigged. I was working on I won't use her name, but on a campaign up there. And like, I know for a fact that the Democratic primaries from border to border of that state were rigged. And for Abdul Saeed, we're going to break the back of the Democratic Party candidate to then turn around and endorse the daughter of a pharma executive and say she'll get us single-payer health care is insane to me. Because the first thing she did was appoint Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield to her transitionary cabinet. But no one in the progressive media, no big people in the progressive media call that out. To where we let these candidates slide. We let them do all of these disgusting, gross things. And we make up reasons why, like, oh, they're trying to build power in the Democratic Party. They don't want to upset the party and not be able to run. But no one ever says, isn't the point to upset the party? Like the ban on the blackball thing, the sanctions against progressive campaigns, where if you work on a campaign against an incumbent.
Yeah, you don't ever work again as a fucking campaign asset consultant manager.
Like that should be our standard. Like, why would we want people on progressive campaigns that are going to jump ship to neoliberals to make more money? Like, I think that that's a good thing in a bad way, because it makes us say, no, we're not playing your game. We're going to build power without you.
Yeah, and that's where taking over your local government really comes into play. It's difficult to get around real estate developers. It's difficult to get around national politicians at the federal level who have a constituency in that district when they've got tech in their pocket or the military industrial complex in their pocket. But it can be done. Santa Cruz has an entire city council made up of no party preference council members.
Was that Gail McLaughlin's? I think that's her name. Was that her effort out there?
No, but
she did that somewhere.
Well, she was out of I want to say Richmond, Hayward.
Okay.
That north of us in the East Bay, like North Bay is right by Oakland. That's where she held elective office. What she's doing right now is she's got an organization called the California Progressive Alliance, and Lauren Steiner and a couple other people are a part of that. And what they're trying to become is the people's lobby. So they're going. They want to hit every county in California before the 2020 election. They want to have seminars and they want to do shit like that in order to get people up to task, because it takes a lot of fucking organizing and activism and fucking getting shit actually accomplished takes way the fuck more dedication than most people can ever imagine before they dip a toe in.
No, it's a leap of faith. Like, you have to not care about consequence. You have to care about what you're doing. Like, I make $15 an hour at the job that I do, but I spend probably $200 to $300 a week that I shouldn't spend on activism, whether it's buying posters, whether it's donating to Chelsea and Julian and all the people on Patreon and super chats and all that stuff. So it's like I guess like the almost politically correct term would be radicalizing for change. But like, it's people just have to care. Like, they just have to care enough to spend an hour a day, because it's not that any one person can change the world. It's that if 7 billion people spent 1 hour a day giving a shit about the world we live on, we could fix so many problems. Because like,
go ahead and finish. But yeah.
Oh no, I'm good. I was just gonna go on to something else.
Cynthia McKinney has a term for like small groups of people getting together to activate larger groups of people, and she calls them power cells. And when you talk about the radicalization of people in terms of becoming part of even just a generic people's movement or a people's lobby or a workers' congress, you're really talking about activating them. And that's I think that's the phraseology that she was trying to put out into the ether. And because I appreciate the work that she's done. I'm gonna co-sign on that. But power cells essentially
I
is
like
what
that
it
idea.
comes down to. And we've witnessed the effectiveness of them through the oligarchy. It's only because they've got activated power cells within their sphere that they can project their influence. And they do that by, sheer control of the fucking financial system, which is something
Yeah.
that we gave up,
Right.
and
And the part that sucks too, like I'm 20, I just turned 28.
oh, you
Like
fucking,
like I'm still a kid. Like, but not really. But
you're not,
like
I'm fucking with you, dude.
yeah. But I look at the world and I'm like, how did it get this way? Like what fucking thing did my dad not stand up for when it was time that allowed us to get into this situation? And there's so many points through history, like JFK's assassination, MLK's assassination, all the way back to the founding of the central bank and then the removal of our gold in the 70s. Like these were all things that should have sparked workers' revolution because people should know what that actually means. Like when we removed ourselves from the gold standard, we left no solution going back once we started printing fiat currency. Like there's no easy way to essentially end the American oil empire and still transition the world out of chaos. Because at the end of the day, if something were to happen to our petrodollar, there goes the planet. Like there goes the world's reserve currency.
I know the MMT argument for this. I do. I know the MMT rebuttal for this. I'm not sure if I believe it 100%, but in the like 5 or 10 minutes that we have left, I'll try to give that, and then I would like you to close on picking up the Unity for J vigils.
Okay.
The argument against that is that you immediately make the case and immediately fund a green revolution so that you accelerate both the pace and the compensation of a transition to more sustainable fuels, more sustainable building materials. You reforest fucking the planet if possible, but wherever you can halt deforestation products or large scale agriculture, you do that, you reforest. Like there's a whole fucking laundry list of shit that they have to back this up that keeps people employed. You are employing people by cleaning up the mess that oil made. You are, all that kind of shit. Like there's policy behind the philosophy, and I'm not 100% discounting that, but to not recognize the backlash that would take place were we to scrub the petrodollar immediately is foolish, and I think that in and of itself would bring people to or at least bring the oligarchy to immediate fucking, if not all out hot war, the wars that they've been waging through economic hitmen and sanctions and all that kind of shit.
Yeah. So to close out, because I got to get going here in a minute, I'm pretty sure you do too. I had the last Unity for J vigil. I was super sad to hear that it was ending because that was one of those things that I was just watching every time it came out. Like that was my main source of information, which I'm pretty sure it was most people's. Yeah. Because that's what was showing up. So when I heard that was ending, I had reached out to Mrs. Assange, to Christine, and I had asked her, like, hey, like, would it be okay if I started a free speech or a free Assange video? Because the Unity for J one ended. And it took her a while to get back to me, but I mean, she probably gets a bajillion messages a day and has a lot going on. But she eventually messaged back and said, yeah. So that's something that I'm going to start getting going, where I have to get like the camera equipment together because I only have my phone right now. But the other person I work with, her name's Taylor Hudak. She's an independent journalist already. So she has a lot of the experience and know-how necessary to help get that all set up in the like behind scenes level too, as far as like camera equipment and lighting and getting like just the basics for what like we would need to host it set up. So I'm pretty excited to get that going.
Let's kick ass. And I've told you privately, but I'll tell the audience now that I've agreed to participate in as many of those as possible, and I'm very much looking forward to doing that. Yeah, man, thank you for coming on. Good luck with your court case and trying to get genuine free speech back into the public square, at least in Oberlin, Ohio, if not anywhere else. But
we've posted, I want to say 12 cities so far, or something close to that, throughout Ohio.
That's awesome.
And sometimes they take them down immediately. There's other ones that'll go past 3 weeks later and they're still hanging up there. So it's just a matter of finding the place that makes people keep them up.
Yeah. All right. Well, shit. Thanks for hanging out, Andrew.
Yeah, no problem, man.
If people want to find you, where should they go? If they want to get like the PDF or downloadable versions of the Free Assange and Free Manning material, what should they do?
So we just got our website up and running. I have to get the like templates and signs and stuff put up there, but that's action4assange.com. They can also check us out on Twitter, which is action_4Assange. All
right. This has been Slow News Day Live. I am Steve Poikinen. Thank you for hanging out with us, and good luck to us all.